And welcome to another episode of the Cosmos Astrum. We have Helena. Yes. We met at Occulticon.
It was such a great time.
Oh my God, it's such an amazing place.
Yeah, really special.
So sad.
I know.
I'm doing the tears thing because, it's no longer there. Mythwood.
Yep.
But, maybe we have to come up with our own Occulticon somewhere.
I think that might be a really good solution.
Yeah. And I have to do my traditional thank you for joining us. I got all the gadgets. So, waiting for a couple of extra people to come in. My usual. And we are getting an echo on your end. Sweet. Thank you. Allison's monitoring us. We were just having a conversation about gatekeeping, and she's my gatekeeper.
The best one.
Does that make me the keymaster? So I'm going to switch to headphones. Okay. Okay, can you say something for me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
How's that so far?
Allison, are you getting an echo on there? If not, I know a setting I can change on here. Hang on a second. I bet I can. Okay, now say something.
Okay, and I'm hopeful this is working.
Yeah, me too. Still a little echo, but not as bad.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, we're getting closer. Oh, we got it perfect.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, then I can go back to monitor. Okay.
So for what it's worth, I'm not hearing an echo anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the problem is when I'm doing the radio broadcast, I have to go under one setting, and I forgot to change it back.
Oh.
So
it's fixed.
So I get to do my, in my regards. So I got too many gadgets. Just wait too many. And unfortunately,
that's great though. I'm glad it worked out.
I forget to set things back certain ways. I just literally got off the radio broadcast with SLE radio and had enough time to fill up my coffee, reset up, and I forgot to change one setting. So I'm gonna proclaim its age. So that's my excuse for everything now. So I guess we can get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, really since my first memory, I won't go into detail all the way back because I'm not a spring chicken, but my first memory, I know I was around 4 or 5, and we were living in Belgium in a building that was medieval age, and I remember waking up quite a number of times, screaming for my parents because I was seeing things and something was touching my hand. And so really since my very earliest memories, I've had a fascination with we'll put it broadly speaking, the esoteric, the occult. And that went into, by the time I was 11, I didn't want to read children's books anymore. So I asked my mom if she would let me, if she could help me get a library card to the adult section of the library, not X-rated. It was just, 12 and over in Montreal. And she did. And so my first, big trip by myself to the library in the adult section, the very first book that I pulled out was an Aleister Crowley. So so that really began, the reading and the studying. And so I have, since my very early childhood, I have been studying and practicing. And along the way, I decided to do some theoretical studies as well. So I did get a bachelor's degree in religious studies, and so I know my Bible pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other religions too, fairly decently. I did get certification as well as an astrologer. So, and I've been working as an astrologer for over 20 years. But that was sort of the side for me that was my passion. But at the time where I finished my BA, I really didn't, in that era, I was like, okay, so I'm marriageable, I guess, now, or something, Anyway, long story short, I did go into the field of conflict resolution. So I did, do my studies and become a professional mediator. And that was in 1996. So that was quite a while ago. And then I, have been working in the field of conflict resolution since that time. And I also went back to school and I got a master's in something called human systems intervention, which is really looking sociologically and psychologically at groups,
Mm-hmm.
which I really found fascinating, because when we look at occult groups, religious groups, that's a real interesting bowl of soup there sometimes.
Yeah.
Something else too, but maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Exactly.
that's it. I've been sort of in both worlds very comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
I've written books in conflict resolution, and also doing a lot of writing in the field of the esoteric, and that's it. These are the things that I love.
So, and talking about those, because you had your presentation at the Culticon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tell us about some of the presentations and lectures that you have done.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've done, let me see. So where we met, that was an occulticon. So,
Mm-hmm.
that was 2 years of that. And both years I did presentations on the left-hand path. I also did Magical Women Week, sorry, in London, England. I did Occulture in Berlin, Germany. Yeah, that was
So
really great.
jealous of you on that one.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and I was going to go back for a second round of both, and then COVID hit. So that, and I've also done a couple of astrology conferences too. So presenting there, and it's always such a joy, because it's always mutual learning too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I like the term workshop, because you're in the workshop, you're learning from it.
yeah.
Because every time somebody comes up with a question, it just sparks that what if
Mm-hmm.
aspect. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I yeah, what was it? Jared corrected me. He says I told him I hated the term class, and he says workshop and class is the same thing. I said we're just talking about what makes me feel better. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the idea of workshop, kind of has the idea too that you're rolling up your sleeves together, and you're going to work on something, and you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, it's all about manifesting anyway, isn't
Yeah.
it? So, uh, and because we were talking beforehand, and we're going to touch on a sensitive subject, which I didn't even realize. Thank you. But this is going to kind of be into a segue,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to touch on the term. And Jared had to pipe up. It's always about you, Matt. Um, he's always anyway. Um, so you brought up about the lecture on the left hand path, and the reason I want to kind of touch on this is because I've been really hit a lot lately about I need a label what I am, or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So you really don't hear the term right hand path that often.
Yeah.
You might hear the right the right pillar, or you might hear things like that on these lines. But why is it that the term left hand path needs to be so predominant in a labeling?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, a couple of things. First of all, let's frame the whole discussion with my favorite word, which is hypothesis. Okay, so a hypothesis is a proposed explanation
Right. Yeah.
made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. Um, and I think that word, we're going to come back to that word, but let's frame the whole thing there.
Mhm.
So, okay, so we're creatures that we need language, right?
Mhm.
So in on a very, very superficial level, we can say, well, why do we need to call fruit? Why do we need to be specific and call it apple versus orange, or a peacock versus a chicken, or whatever? Why can't we just call it a bird? You know, um, so so we use language to get a deeper understanding of what we're about.
Right.
And so in one sense, I think that differentiation of left hand path and right hand path, it has nothing to do at all with is one better or worse or whatever, because everything's a hypothesis anyway.
Mhm.
But we need language to try and explain how we see things, how we see the world, how we feel about them, and our place in them. So in that sense, I think the terminology is important. Now, and by the way, jump in anytime,
Oh, no,
Matt.
no.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. Let's look at whether you're right hand path or not. We're talking about an approach to life and to magic. Okay.
Mhm.
And so the left hand path would say, one of the differentiations between the two would say that the self is the primary deity. Okay. Whereas the right hand path would say that there is an ultimate deity outside of the self.
Right.
Now, that has nothing to do with superiority between the two, because everything's a hypothesis, right? So, but there are I think, real and important differentiations between the right and the left hand paths, so that we can talk about these things that
Mhm.
are not about labeling them. Okay. So if we're going to look at this as, okay, so how do we consciously and deliberately, how do we think about ourselves as magicians, or
Mhm.
occultists, or sorcerers, or witches, or whatever terminology we want to use?
Right.
How do we think about ourselves and our magic? To begin to communicate that and articulate it, we need terminology. Okay, so
Real quick,
mhm.
I want to drop up there a comment that was made by Jared. So, as most humans instinctively feel the need to categorize and label, not really good or bad, unless people are labeling you against your will.
Mhm.
So, because to go with that label concept, um, yeah, there, as I progress and as I learn, I would feel more in tune to say to myself, not to someone else.
Mhm.
Yes, I would lean more toward this. Yes, I would lean more toward this.
Mhm.
Enochian for this 10 years. Now I'm strictly this. Now I'm strictly, and it's part of the development process. The labeling that comes from an outside source. Let's say, for example, oh, you're a whatever practitioner. Right now, my brain just went vacant. It happens a lot. But somebody walks up to you and says, "Oh, you're this type of practitioner," and
Mhm.
but the commonality of most people tend to cling on to that. Oh, now I have a label,
Mhm.
you know, and even if it has nothing to do with their path or anything, they tend to cling on to that. I know it's a little bit sidetracked, but um, why do you think it's so important? Well, like you said, people need those
I think
to
they do. Yeah.
identify, but but what if it's even against their grain, I guess we'll call it. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah. You mean to use a label at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one has been given to them from an outside source.
Well,
Not,
okay. That's a really good point. Okay. So let's look at that concept of being given from an outside source. First of all, we have to remember that the term left-hand path, there's an Eastern origin to that, and then there's a Western origin, right? Just like the word karma,
right.
the original meaning of that word is not at all, Eastern wise, it's not at all what today we understand it in, or how we use it in Western terminology. But anyway, so in the Sanskrit, Vamachara, that meant left-handed attainment. And then they had another terminology, Vamamarga, which was left path or left-hand path. So, we won't go into all of what did that mean for them? Because that's a whole other discussion that we would have to look at through their cultural lens, right, in India.
Right.
Okay, so it did come from there. It did originate from there. And then we can kind of fast forward very, very far in the future to the 1800s, where then suddenly it came up again, but this time in Western terminology. And that was through Madame Helena Blavatsky, the co-founder of the Theosophical Society. So she used the term left-hand path, and in her usage of it, it was a negative thing. Okay, so it was in the magical context, in the occult context, which in the original, Hindu, it was not. It was it was not about magic. It was about religion, if anything else.
Right.
But now, Western mindset, it's being used in an occult context, and it has a negative connotation to it through Madame Blavatsky. So today, what it really means, there are a number of differentiating factors between the right-hand path and the left-hand path. So one of the big things is, what's your opinion on this whole concept of God or gods, for that matter? And this is a really, really important discussion that's not about labeling, because a lot of what we do and think and how we see ourselves and our place in life and afterlife and all of that will link back to, for some people, do we think there's a God or gods?
Right.
So long story short, the right-hand path, basically we're saying, it's Gnostic it's Gnostic theism. Okay. So we're saying, I believe, or I know, that there is a God or gods.
Right.
Now, think about that for a second. Now, really,
try not to.
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah, that's not because that's definitely not how I believe. But
Okay, but think about how many of our pagan and magical and occult and all the different permutations freely talk about gods, and that the gods are helping them, and that you can, you can have a relationship with them. There are sacrifices. Sometimes they get angry at you. Like there's a relationship. And I'm not saying it's a right or wrong, or it's true or not. Everything's a hypothesis, but that's a very different approach from saying the sort of the agnostic theism, which is there may be, I don't know. I don't know, and therefore, I'm kind of going to act as though there aren't, and the only thing I can know for sure is myself.
Yeah,
so
that's actually a really good point, because it's really the self that has to identify, or like you said, come up with that hypothesis. Each individual person needs to come up with identification, and because of how they practice or what they believe. Or I have this ad, a PSA that I play on the radio station. And I honestly thought I was going to get in trouble for it. And I'll just give you a hint. It's a lot of sheep going in the background. Yeah. So I'll stop there. Um, and some choir music going. Anyway,
Yeah.
It's the herding of the sheep. To follow. What do you practice? Oh, well, I'm going to do that too. And I like this comment, Michael Davis Frill. I really like that comment. I think it's assumed that spiritual people are on the right hand path, especially specifically the left hand path helps differentiate from the pumpkin spice namaste crowd.
Well, that's such a good point, because I think that would be my response. Why don't we hear the term right hand path? Because it's the default.
Right.
It's the default. Okay. So any time we have a religion, and now we're not talking about specifically within the occult world, any religion is automatically right hand path, because the ultimately what a religion will say is that there is a truth, capital T, right? And you as a human being you're not enough. You're not good enough. So you either need to be born into Judaism, or you need to be saved by Jesus, or you need to convert to Islam, right?
Yeah.
Etc. Or drink the Kool-Aid or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Because you yourself are either born in sin or not good enough or whatever, right? So you need something bigger than yourself to forgive you or to accept you or whatever. And that we can see that thinking. Now here I'm talking about religion, right? Capital R, but we can see that thinking trickling into pagan beliefs, all over the place, and occult thinking and so on. So the left-hand path is not saying that there are no other beings.
Right.
That's not at all. I mean, of course, there have to be, or we're going to say we're the only beings in the whole freaking universe. No, man, that's crazy. That's the math doesn't make sense on that one, right? Yeah. So the left-hand path does not say there are no beings. The left-hand path, however, would have the approach that you don't have to be, you're acceptable without them.
Right. You're not dependent.
You're not dependent, no, and you can potentially have communication with them and interact with them, but that's a very different thing from they have to accept you.
Right. Well, it's no different than me showing up at your house. I mean, you could slam the door in my face if you want. I mean, which probably would happen, but
never.
Yeah. Jared says, if we're alone in the universe, it seems like an awful waste of space. I mean, that is a lot of real estate, this universe or any other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's, I'm going to just digress very, very quickly. But if we look at the mythologies all around the world, going back to the earliest history that we have of humanity, they all speak about beings that are not human. Okay. Right. And then when we look at the archaeological monuments that are all over the earth that we're only beginning to discover. Okay. I'm not talking about Stonehenge here. I'm talking like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is absolutely mind-blowing how old that is. It completely changes history. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. These monuments are almost all pointing up there, right, to the cosmos. So
you have this ancient history, and I know we're kind of getting off track, but you bring up one of my pet peeves is, like even in Egypt, some of the findings that have been found in Egypt that basically rewrite history. And all over the world, these locations are being found, and they're completely rewriting history. But because of dogmatic groups that
Yep.
don't want the history changed because now it rewrites their beliefs.
Yes.
A lot of this is getting swept underneath the rug, or oh no, the dating is wrong. It's I mean, we've seen that. Well, actually, that's been going on for quite some time. And they'll do the dating. They'll find out it's a couple thousand years older than what they thought,
Mm-hmm.
and because it conflicts with the regional beliefs, oh no, that's wrong. The data is wrong. Our
Yes.
hypothesis is right.
Right, which translates into we don't want to lose control.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That's been like my constant topic on every one of these episodes
Yeah.
is
No,
control.
it's so valid. So so I think that the right hand path is not brought up as much because it's the default, and
Mhm.
we have thousands of years of human history with that default.
Right.
All cultures, all kinds of different cultures, not every single culture, but all over the place. And again, but there could be something totally valid to that because we have all of the world mythologies, and we have all of the the monuments that are pointing to something outside of the human race. So
Right.
there are maybe our gods. Now, are they aliens or something else is a whole different discussion that we won't go into. But the question, I think the question is really important. It's not about a label so much as it is, well, so think about that when you're talking about that god or that goddess,
Mhm.
or angels or demons or whatnot, and that you're invoking this and that, and what are you really saying?
Right. That's what on a workshop just recently I put up like one deity, and I put the categorization of the description of this deity and its influences and what it blah blah blah, and this would be from this era in this time frame. And then I'll put up this other deity with a description, and people would see these correlations. And then I'll
Yeah,
put up this other deity, and they would see the correlations, and how they all match. And what I love doing, like in this particular
that's
one that
very
we're
cool.
doing, uh, this one particular one that I like to do, I start off with like Thoth or Toth, depending on who you talk to. And I start off with that. And I said, okay, well, of course, you got Hermes over here in Greece, but Toth is, or Tahuti, whichever language
Hmm.
you want to use, was also called a trickster god. Okay, so then we bring in Loki, and then
Yeah,
we bring in this. But okay, but Loki was also called the light bringer. Okay, well, this one is called the light bearer.
yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So you have all these sitting up on the presentation screen, and it's interesting to watch because the different names had such a stigma around them. As far as being, well, that's evil, that's good, that's evil, that's
Hmm.
good, that's
Yeah.
whatever. Once they realize they're all the same, now it's like, wait a second, I got to rethink this.
Hmm.
Or in some cases, as soon as they see that name that they had already have pre-programmed in their head, they shut down
Hmm.
and they said, "Nope, don't want to hear anything else."
Right.
But that correlation between, and it's what, just to go also with the concept of, let's say, like the Gunning Gagop with the Norse. But if you look at the Voodoo with Damballa, those correlations, that all fit together, through the creation process, to cataclysm and everything else.
Hmm. Yes.
They all fit together, but they're in completely different regions. And I don't know. I firm believer. Now, see, I tend to go to the multidimensional side of things
Hmm.
because I
Yeah.
like to overthink things, and
Way to overthink, dude.
yeah, but
Make
that's,
sure you come back.
yeah, no, yeah. I'm done with this real estate. I'm ready to go.
Yes, getting tempting.
Yeah, especially nowadays. But I kind of skipped over, and I want to apologize because I was going to drop in a commercial real quick for the broom closet. So we'll come back to this topic because
Okay, sounds good.
and I'm wearing my Jessups. I can't see it. I'm too whatever. Anyway, but I'm wearing my Jessup shirt tonight. And this is Jessup's in the broom closet here in Regina. And I would like to point out, none of these commercials or any of these insert ads that we put in, we get paid for. This is a handshake of like-minded individuals that we want to support. And there's, of course, if you've never been to the broom closet / Jessup's General Store, it's a landmark. Just saying, it's a landmark, and it's family. So I'm going to drop them in here real quick.
Welcome to Jessup's General Store and the Broom Closet Witchcraft Supply Shop. I'm Carly Jessup, owner of Jessup's General Store, and not seen on camera is Donna Kruger, who's the owner of the Broom Closet Witchcraft Supply Shop. We are located in Regina, Saskatchewan in the Heritage neighborhood, and in our shop you can find all sorts of cool things, from occult-inspired clothing, art and accessories, to witchcraft supplies like herbs, incense, candles, and other sorts of divination tools. Hopefully you can come and check it out sometime.
And I would like to point out, if you ever go into the broom closet, Jessup's General Store, and you see Donna and somebody's talking to her, everybody refers to her as Mama. She's everybody's Mama. And but we all love her to death. So, but getting back on topic, sorry, I got so excited because we're on the same page on so many different things, and and I do like to contradict sometimes just to spark conversation, but it's going to be really hard with you. I'm sorry. So we already actually hit on one of our topics, and everybody knows I live by notes, so they know what I'm looking at. So okay, let me explain something to you. And I was showing to you when you came into the security camera footage of the building. And when you come in through the east, there's a light fixture, and it's in the foyer area. And the outside lights on it, it's a huge candelabra, and they're regular flame. But the inside of it is a black flame. So the symbolism of everything here is based off of symbolism. And so you had the outward illumination, the inward illumination is what the important part of it was. So from your perspective, is the concept of the black flame strictly a left-hand path term?
Well, let's look at where that concept, that terminology comes from. So that was Michael Aquino when he was with the Church of Satan between 1970 and 75. He was with the Church of Satan, and then he broke off from them and formed the Temple of Set after that. So he, unless it's showed up earlier, but I'm not aware of it. I know that he used the term the black flame in a book or writing that he did called the Diapolicon in 1970. And my understanding, so this is not fact, this is my understanding, is that he used it in the sense of one of the senses in which it's used. So let's move away from how he used it, because I'm not going to speak for him. But in the left-hand path community, there are a few ways in which the black flame is understood, and one of which is that it is that which distinguishes the human animal from the other animals. Now, what's the that? Yeah. Okay, what's the that? And so the thinking there is that some people would call it the true self, the will, that which is in each individual that makes them unique. It can be the flame of the creativity. So it's, people have said it's the spirit, it's the soul. So first of all, long story short, there is no one definition of the black flame that everybody agrees on, just like there isn't one definition of the left-hand path that everybody agrees on. But, essentially, essentially it's saying that it's that within yourself that sets you apart from other people, and that is your true self, your will, etc. So could that terminology be used in the left or the right hand path?
Oh yeah.
Why not?
Because the explanation that I've often give, this is my interpretation, and I always tell everybody this is my interpretation, is in this way it was always explained to me, is that the black flame, well, like I said with the candelabra, a flame is to illuminate others along their way. The black flame is to illuminate yourself.
Yeah.
So your self-identification is where your internal knowledge resides, and that you're tapping into. And so that's the analogy I always give. I hold up like a candle lit and say, okay, this is lighting the room. This is outward illumination.
Right.
The black flame is inward.
Yeah. So. However, when we look at left and right hand path, then it would make sense that there's much more of an emphasis in the left hand path on the black flame. Because with the right hand path, one of the distinguishing features is that, let's say, put it this way, my ultimate goal or aim or destination is to become one, to become one with the all.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to lose my individual self. I'm gonna I'm going to become part of something that's out there, whatever the one is, the source, God, whatever you want to call it. So of course, then that would make sense that it's not used as often in a right-hand path approach, because the aim is different. The left-hand path approach is to individuate, and the right-hand path approach is to become one with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Well,
it's to me, and I know to several others, with the black flame concept, and like you said, it's a million different. I've heard so many different translations every time somebody walks through the door, and you mention the black flame. But the overall, I guess you would take a blanket term would be inward development versus outward.
Totally. And then we can really see where that would apply. Not that that's in any way better, but really we can see that then with artists of any kind, because they're constantly going inward torturously to create, right? Oh. And so that's and very often the black flame is used. Artists are used as a comparison point of, well, this is what it looks like,
And it's also from an artist perspective, everything is up for interpretation. I may paint a picture or I may create something, and I'm saying it's this, but somebody else interprets it as completely different. And once again, that comes from the outside labels looking
exactly in. Right.
So. So with that, funny, that was a perfect segue from your perspective. And I'm not a fan of labels, as we've already expressed. But when asked, I usually, I practice my path. We kind of went through the concept of the human nature of why labels are needed. I mean, it's the same concept as what I was referring back when you were talking in my head. That happens a lot. I was thinking about Play-Doh. Why is this a table? Because I say it's a table.
Yeah.
So, but why is it that a group, most common groups, I'm not going to say all groups, because there are some groups that celebrate individuality. But why is it a collective or a control thing or whatnot, where certain groups feel that they have to say, you are this now in order to be part of this,
Yeah.
Is that a control thing to you, or is it more of a alignment?
Yeah. Well, okay, let's look at it from this perspective. Humans, regardless of their culture, we have basic needs. Of course, we have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm actually not talking about that. Actually, thinking more in terms of needs-based psychology. So if we look at those schools of thought, which are very well researched, we have basic needs, and one of those needs is to belong. That is a basic human need, to belong to something or to somebody or whatever, right? And that's very much linked to the thinking is that there is no real difference between love, the need for love, and the need for belonging. They're actually the same thing. So we could optimistically say that need for belonging is so strong in human beings. But what happens is that we use strategies to meet those needs. And sometimes those strategies are dysfunctional and not healthy. And sometimes, they're the opposite. They are healthy. And so control is not a need.
Right.
It's a strategy. It's a tool. It's a behavior so that we can try desperately sometimes, to meet those needs or protect those needs or fulfill those needs or whatever the case may be. So I think that with groups, because then we get into group dynamics and all of that very tricky stuff. What we're seeing playing out is not on an individual level, but on a collective level, the exercise of that need for belonging. And the default very often is, well, then we're going to use control mechanisms. That way we continue to belong, right? Very classic, very, very classic. We see this in all types of groups of people, whether it's political or familial or societal or spiritual, it doesn't matter. It's very classic.
That brings a question that I'm wondering. Let's say we're going to, I hate to use the word, but I'm going to pick on the word coven.
Okay.
So you have a coven, and the people that are running the coven, in your opinion, would you feel that it's also a need for them to have a control? Not necessarily the belonging, but maybe there's a certain characteristics of certain people to where they feel. Are you talking
about the leadership of a coven?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So then,
not all covens, by the way.
No, for sure. But actually, I'm going to say this would be for all covens because this would be for all groups, right? So people who are in positions of leadership would have, we all have hierarchies of needs. Okay. Right. So people who are in positions of leadership, one of their top priorities of needs that needs to be filled or met or satisfied or nourished is the need for recognition. There's nothing wrong with recognition, right? Like we understand it intuitively and empathetically that we all want to feel recognized. Nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with having these needs. They were supposed to be that way. Right. But where it goes off the rails is the strategies that are used to meet those needs. So again, if it's control, if it's bullying, if it's manipulation, if it's whatever, then those are dysfunctional strategies to try and meet the need for recognition, which is being played out as leadership.
I'm going to kind of add to that a little bit because I've seen leadership roles in certain groups because I've belonged to several different groups growing up and whatnot. And it may have the best intentions, but that need for recognition turns into the need of worship. Where they need to be elevated to the point of, I don't even know what the right word is, because the leadership or these different groups, they're no longer looking for recognition. They're looking more for, the bowing and I need, I need everyone to pay attention to me and nothing else matters. It's where the ego gets in the way. And the little man syndrome, the Napoleon
Yeah, for
complex.
sure. Well, that would be an example of. By the way, just if anyone's interested, the theorist is Marshall Rosenberg. Okay, so that's the psychologist that I'm referring to in terms of the needs-based theory, Marshall Rosenberg, and so according to that theory, that worship piece, it would still be the need for recognition gone completely haywire, gone like so dysfunctional that it's damaging people. But worship is the strategy. Worship is the strategy. The need is still for recognition. But there are other needs too that could be at play, right? So it could also be the need for self-worth.
I think that's a huge something traumatic. Now, this is my opinion. Once again, I'm not a professional. You're the one with all the degrees. But my opinion, and Josh said a comment. Well, this hits home. Let's remove covens, groups, everything, and we'll say, if it's a situation, whether or not it's in a workplace or if it's whatever the case may be, and this person is maybe he or she was bullied as a kid or whatever the case, and they couldn't seem to get rid of it. Want to hang on to that. Now they're put in a place of power, and now they're taking it out on everybody else. So that's a now they get the recognition. Now it starts creating a drive to
and sometimes that is, if that's coming from a place of trauma, right, then the need, in addition to self-worth or recognition, because you can have more than one need percolating at the same time, but there could also be a need there for safety or security. And so the unfortunately dysfunctional strategy that person uses to feel safe or secure is to control people or to bully them or to whatever,
demean them, or whatever the case may be. Because if they could, I can't stand people that feel like they have to elevate themselves by lowering others. They should all be elevated equally. You may have a hierarchy, but it should be a growth process with everybody.
Well, that behavior is code, right? All behavior is code. So the person who has to elevate themselves, I mean, we can decode it, right? And it's going to come back down to, okay, there's some basic needs here that they're petrified are not going to be met or are going to be taken away or in some way removed from them that they have to protect so hard, humans, and that's
exactly.
And that's it. But your point about bringing it back to, I'll say, like, widely speaking, spiritual groups, because this can be left or right hand path, it doesn't, or any path in between, it doesn't matter. Occultists and pagans and whatever, they're no different. They're still human. And so these theories of social behavior and personality and so on still apply. Just because you're a magician doesn't mean you're not of, not of the flesh.
Oh, absolutely.
In that sense. And that's why so many of these groups implode or they're dysfunctional. Like, it's very, very rare in a quote unquote spiritual group that it lasts and that it's healthy. Very, very rare.
Yeah, because a lot of times they turn into a political game or a struggle for power or, and then of course you got the other end of the spectrum where everybody's, grabbing a cup at the end of the sermon. But, it turns into an absolute, pardon the term, and I'm probably going to get slapped on this again by Facebook, but a shit show.
It's a total shit show. Yeah. And here's the thing, and it's just a point of reflection, not anything more. But so if you're going to lead a group, right, whether it's a coven or a temple or whatever, then get some professional development or training or whatever in emotional intelligence and leadership skills and conflict resolution skills and so on, because just because you're invoking demons does not mean that you're exempt from the human dynamics of a group.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah.
So before we get into our next topic, and this person very well as well, he was also at Culticon. We're going to drop an ad in for Lalakins Owens, Sean, the lovely Sean. Going to listen from him real quick. I love his products. I have no idea how he does it. With all the products we make here, I have the biggest envy. He's just amazing. I love him to death. So here's Sean with Lalakin Owens.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean, and I'm the owner of Lalakins Owens. I make natural, handcrafted, intention-based products like beeswax spell candles, scented spell candles, loose incense, stick incense, liquid incense, anointing oils, and bath salts. So you can check out all of my products on my website at www.LAILOKENSAWEN.com.
Love him.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
It's just amazing. I honestly can't. Have you been on his Lux Files yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you gotta get on there. It's so much fun. I had a blast. It's so laid back. It's kind of like this type setup, just what the hell, makeup and stuff as you go along. So let's go really far off the rails here.
Okay.
Because me, I used to be in music. I love music. And so you've been, aside from everything that you've done, because quite a bit, you're also promoting and managing, or is that correct?
A group.
Yeah, just a group.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's Project F. If I'm saying that right. Yeah, Southern accent thing. I'm going to screw up everything. So, give me a rundown on them. Tell me about them.
Yes. Well, okay. So talk about the Black Flame. I think that was the one of the things that really attracted me to their personalities and their music. So utterly, purely true to themselves and to their art. So they're a Montreal-based industrial rock group. And, through people that we knew in common, they ended up in asking me if I would become their manager. And this was, oh my goodness, 6 or 7 years ago. So I said yes. And it has been a wonderful journey of working with artists, very different environment from a workplace. And very, very rewarding to be a little part of their artistic journey and to support them in that. So they've been around for quite a while, for I think about 12 years now. And this year, even though it was COVID, we were able to, they were able to get into Canadian Music Week. So they were one of the finalists that got in for that. Nice. So that was kind of a nice thing to experience, because everything else is shut down, right? And there's nothing live. But they did that. And they also put out a couple of singles and are finishing up an EP and a new album. So, yeah.
Well, I've I don't know if this is going to work or not, because the past couple times I've tried to do this, it muted the music. So I'm going to try to pipe in. So Analog States,
yes,
is one of the songs that I have pulled up. And to anybody watching, I apologize if Facebook, or because we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch right now. So I don't know which ones will mute it or not, and vice versa, or if I'm going to get a nasty email in a few minutes. So, but we're going to try it. There's been a couple times this worked, and a couple times I got slapped But how is Analog States? I didn't look at the date. I apologize. I just grabbed one real quick.
No, that's you got their most recent one.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
That was luck. So, real quick, I'm going to try to play it. Hopefully, we don't get dinged. If we start getting muted, please comment. The broadcast won't get shut down. They haven't done that to me yet. But if we get muted, just post in the comments and let me know. We're not muted, so if you got any comments, Helena, more than welcome to jump.
Okay. So they're a duo, but for live, they're a 4-piece band.
Oh, okay. I want that headpiece.
Isn't it something? He's proud of it.
If I run away, I'll be left alone, flying over the last city, full of lights and despair, watching over everything, this dream full of life. I'm all alone on the cloud, asking someone, it's gonna be alright, gonna be alright, it's gonna be alright, just this time, it's gonna be alright. If I run away, will I drift again? Flying over the last city, full of doubts and whispers, watching over everything, the streets full of life. I'm all alone on the cloud, asking someone, it's gonna be alright.
I love the imagery in this.
Yeah. That's the William, the bassist with the mask, did everything, all of the graphics.
So we're gonna actually back over there. So we're gonna stop it real quick because I want to watch time too. So
Yeah.
anybody, you definitely, that was an awesome place to stop it too. Which, by the way, I'm going to be incorporating Project F into the show, with the radio show and whatnot. So that's coming up soon. I just need to get my hands on some music. But yeah, because I usually start out kind of heavy because it's 10 o'clock in the UK when I'm broadcasting. So I usually come out a little bit on the heavier side. Then I kind of start tapering off to some lighter meditation, because I want them to go to sleep and I kind of, whatever. Yeah.
Well, this is a very calm song for them because they are an industrial rock duo. So there's quite some other styles as well.
Yeah, I was listening to one of the other songs and I hadn't actually listened to this one yet. So when I selected it, I was being greedy because the imagery in the video.
Yeah, so beautiful.
I'm a visual person, so I had listened to some of the other music, and I'm like, this might be a little too heavy to start, at 10 o'clock at night in the UK. But I played around tonight with some more intense music just out of curiosity, and they loved it. So I'm going to start bringing this in now. I think at the end of it, I was playing some old. No, the last song I played from Highline, I think it was. But
Oh, nice.
so either way, you can see how that taper down goes and
Yes.
whatnot. So, so you mentioned writing, and no,
hmm
uh, can you kind of give me just a complete rundown on either collaborations or anything like that you've done?
hmm
And yeah, yeah, I'm being careful what I say. There's so
Absolutely. Yeah. And I actually got permission to speak a little bit about the newest book. So
yes, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
it's first here on your show, Matt.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So the rundown is that on the conflict resolution side, I have a psychometric instrument. It's called conflict response roles, and it's a questionnaire that you fill out, and it gives you a profile of how you react when you're in conflict. So that was the first thing that I published, and then there's a conflict resolution for musicians and other cool people with my co-author Ken Ashdown, and then 2 years later we did Keep the Drama in Front of the Camera, which is conflict resolution for film and TV, also with my co-author Ken Ashdown. And he and I are high school buddies. We went to high school together.
Nice.
And we're in the same field together now, and so it was a really good fit. But his background, he used to be the VP of marketing for Polygram Records way back when that existed. So his background was in the music industry, and then he was a prof at the Vancouver Film Institute. So he brought that side to it, and I brought the conflict resolution side to it. And then he became a mediator, so it worked out really well.
Nice.
Anyway, and so what we're working on now, we'll be done. We're done the book. It's just got to be edited. It's all about group intervention. So that's on the conflict resolution side, and then on the esoteric side, I've contributed to a number of Anathema Publishing volumes. So there's Pillars, the Scalding of Sapientia, and Pillars Circling the Compass. And then
all of which, by the way, are in the library. So if you ever come here to the
oh yeah, right.
Check it out.
Gorgeous. Aren't they beautiful, those books?
Beautiful.
Oh my goodness, they're just works of art. And then so what I'm working on now, again through Anathema, is a book with co-author. His name is Shandi Azk, and that's AZK. And on Facebook, you can find him. I think he's under, oh no, I can't remember. I think it's AZK artist. He's a jeweler and a visual artist. And he and I teamed up together. And he's, for our project, is called the Serpent Icons. So it's not a tarot deck. It's not an oracle deck. It's icons. That's what we're calling them, the Serpent Icons. And so it's a book and a deck of cards. And it's not really meant for divination, but it's meant for use of going deeper within the self, which with each of the icons. So I won't go into more detail than that, but that's one piece. And then the other piece of it is rituals or workings. So there's a whole grimoire in the book, and that's for each one of the cards. There's a working meant to build on the inner journey that you do with the card. So that's the Serpent Icons, and that will be out in early 2022, assuming there are no glitches.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and then we've already started writing our second book together, which is going to be some sort of a companion to the Serpent Icons, but that's it. All I'll say for now.
I'm so glad you were able to, because that was going to eat me alive.
Yeah.
It was like,
yeah. So it's great. It's a combination of you know, I've done all the writing and he's done all of the art, but it's at some point it all becomes melded into one. So
Well, they all go hand in hand. I
yeah,
mean,
well, that's it. Yeah. So it's
yeah.
philosophy and magic and art,
Nice.
essentially. Yeah.
Sweet. So, wow, you just made my night by announcing that. It is so exciting. Yeah, I love because on my notes, what did I give her? I said possible future release. So I'm tickled to death. So
That's great.
So how can we track you down? Because I know you've got the news site up and everything. So let's make sure
Yeah,
we have that information out
So
there.
the best way to get in touch is helenavanl.com. And then soon, and I'm sorry I didn't get it ready in time for before this discussion, but there will be social media as well, and when that's ready, it'll be up on the website. So that's the way to get in touch, is through the website.
Okay, awesome.
Or through anathemapublishing.com. You can also get me through there.
Yeah, which I'm notorious about. You know, I have different publishers and distributions that I look at religiously. Pardon the pun. And because I'm always looking for those rare, books, and I love those first releases, and they've got to be in the library and whatnot. And it's so funny. I'm the kind of guy, because Allison will walk down here and see me minimizing a bunch of windows. The first first thought is, what are you looking at? And I got to open them all up. They're all like, but it's on sale. It's on sale. They're going to be only releasing so many, and
Oh, I know. So, I feel you.
Paper and that leather bound book, and and the smell.
Yep. The art.
Well, actually, I have a print from Anathema. The print hanging over the fireplace in the libraries from them. And
great. Yeah.
It's the Loki print.
Okay. Yeah.
I kept procrastinating on it, and then I saw we only have, because they were all numbered, and we only did 50 of them. And I procrastinated so bad, I got number 49 of 50.
Ooh, just in time.
Like,
that's great. I'm going to tell them that story.
Oh, yeah. I was horrible, because when it first announced it, I was like right there. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Oh, thank you, Allison, for posting it to the group. And I kept procrastinating. Finally, I saw we only have a few left, and sure, as I got 49 or 50 up there. So I'm proud I got it.
Yeah, well, that's great. And it's I have to say, he quality is the most important thing to Gabriel, and it's really these are his works of art, with his authors and his artists. It's just such a privilege to be involved.
Yeah, it's actually the last time I was in the hospital. Now, you can have to tell him this story too, because I was reading one of the pillars. I can't remember which one it was. And I was reading that, but every time a nurse would go by, I put it down and I picked up Necromancing Volume 1 from Mexico, and I would hold it up and, just as a joke. And then as I would leave, I pick up my pillars again. And they come back through. I'm holding up different necromancy books. If I'm not going to get any attention in the hospital, I'll make damn sure they're paying attention to me now.
Yeah. Way to freak the nurses out.
Yeah, it worked every time. Which way to the morgue? But anyway, thank you so much for being on. Is there anything else that you want to include so that we can track you down, Project F, anything?
Well, projectf.net, and that's project with a K. So projectf.net and helenavanl.com. And then if people are interested in getting a look at the artist who's co-authored with me for the Serpent Icons, that's Shandi, and he can also be found on the Anathema Publishing.com website. So you'll find him there, Shandi, and then from there links to his own sites and social media.
I'm gonna real quick answer a question that just popped up.
Mhm.
You mentioned the Culticon. Do we have a link to that? And also, will the Black Flame Conference ever get off the ground again? I'll answer the one with the Occulticon. You'll answer the Black Flame Conference. The Culticon has pretty much been shut down as far as where it was located, because the location had to close for a variety of reasons. We won't get into that. So Occulticon itself had to be paused. I look at it as paused because that was such a huge thing for so many people. My personal idea is maybe we should have a couple of them across Canada, in different regions. But that's just my opinion. So that's basically been shut down. If you go to the meditu.ca site, I've got a ton of pictures, but that's pretty much all that's left. Now the Black Flame Conference. I'll let you take that one.
And that makes me think that plant that seed. That collaboration is a good thing.
Yes.
And and so okay. In terms of Black Flame, I mean there was the Black Flame in the United States, and then there were two that were in Canada. I talked with Season Cole, who did the Black Flame in Portland, and we toyed around with the idea of doing a virtual Black Flame during the pandemic. In the end, we didn't do it. But once we're back and running, and being able to deal with each other in person, will there be a conference? I sure hope so. Will it be called Black Flame? I have no idea. But I hope that there's going to be something in Canada, and I hope that there will be a collaboration there. I think that would be lovely.
Jared says maybe we should have an Occulticon in Milestone, since we have this building here and the property around the area, and we have the campsite right down the street, and it's actually not a bad setup for us doing something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll
I think it'd be really, really great. I really do.
Yeah, it needs to come back. It was the okay, let's remove all the workshops, classes, lectures, whatever you want to call them. It's like us sitting down at the bench out by the campground and, just experiencing each other and just hanging out and shooting the bull. Yes, drinking, whatever else. It doesn't matter. We're enjoying each other's company.
Exactly.
Regardless of what you believe, regardless of, how your your personal views are.
Right.
All those people, do you know what my pride moment was in that whole thing? Was the midnight ritual.
Oh, so beautiful.
We're not going to go into details about it, but it was breathtaking to see that
Absolutely.
many people.
Totally agree.
All those different people, different paths, and even the 22 that stayed, I counted. I'm sorry, I had to count because it was that overwhelming with me. That it was very, and also the way, just the whole thing. I can't.
Oh, and there's nothing can replace, eating together, going for walks together, sitting around a fire together. That's back to those human needs, right? Of connection.
Oh yeah.
And meaning, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to experience it before it was shut down. But maybe we should all get together and come up with another version of it and keep that feeling going alive. And there's enough. There's enough of us. We can enough brain power. I don't have any brain cells. I got brain power, but
we all have something to contribute.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's a discussion that needs to continue on. So
yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
Thank you. I really
always
appreciate
an honor
that.
and a pleasure.
Likewise.
I just hold on. I gotta get my finger on the trigger. Okay. Well, at least I hit the right button. No.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
Yeah. But thank you, everybody, for watching. And it's absolutely amazing and always a pleasure. And I'm going to actually close this out by playing our new project that we're working on. So you might get a giggle of this. And Helena, I'm just going to ask you to stay on for a few minutes.
Yeah. Bye, Matt.